Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and it's the day for Manchester United. It's round one. Manchester United play Porto tonight. They must get a result with Villa on Sunday. It's the big two for Erik ten Hag, and apparently he's very angry. He's angry with his players, he's angry with himself, and he wants them to take it out on Porto. Putting your trust in these players is like getting Ronald McDonald to look after your cow. You're probably going to come home to nothing. But also, we've got two ex-Man United legends talking about Ten Hag. And you know what? I think one of them is talking out their arse again, if I'm being completely honest, with this mythical nonsense that always gets thrown at Manchester United. And we've got some updates coming in from The Athletic in the last few minutes talking about Ruud van Nistelrooy. Sir Jim Ratcliffe will be at the game on Sunday, Aston Villa. And you know what? I thought Sir Jim Ratcliffe would be at Man United games every week. I mean, look, the Glazers never turn up and not, but you know, certain owners do turn up to a lot of their games. I think at Chelsea they turn up a lot, don't they? But anyway, that's by the by. Sir Jim Ratcliffe will be there on Sunday to potentially say bye-bye to Erik ten Hag. Get your comments in as usual. Massive game for Manchester United tonight, of course. But look, let's start off with a bit of breaking news. It's coming in from The Athletic, and it's basically from Laurie Whitwell, who is saying that Manchester United, people close to Manchester United feel that Ruud van Nistelrooy is a realistic replacement for Erik ten Hag should his time at the club come to an end. His presence and communication has impressed players and staff. Also got a very funny story about Harry Maguire from Ben Jacobs, just for a bit of comedy later. I'm getting vibes of Batman, the one with Heath Ledger in it. Look, Harry Maguire, Batman. Just remind me about it in a few minutes' time. But yeah, I mean, look, the interesting thing about this from The Athletic and Laurie Whitwell is that, you know, where it says people and staff are impressed with Van Nistelrooy's presence and communication. Hold on a minute. I'll call it out when I see it. And that is just absolute nonsense, isn't it? It really is, because there is absolutely no way that... What's wrong with my bloody computer today? You know what? Just a very, very quick one here, breaking news. My streaming computer, I can't get the keyboard to work. And now my other computer, I can't get the keyboard to work. It's incredible. I don't know what's going on with it today. Has anyone else got that problem with their computers today? Or is it just me? I've probably got a big, massive virus or something. The keyboard just won't work. Really? Oh, it's working now. Let me just get this. Very unprofessional of me, but I've struggled to get live for the time I was meant to today. But yeah, look, I think in relation to that comment there about the Ruud van Nistelrooy presence and communication has impressed the players and staff. Hold on a minute. We've lost 3 of our first 7 games, or 6 games. I don't buy into this propaganda anymore. You know, I'm fed up of Man United fans being treated like mushrooms and fed on shit. Ruud van Nistelrooy would be a good replacement because the players like his communication and presence. He's been here for 3 months. We've lost 3 games in the Premier League. They clearly don't like his communications and presence that much. He's an assistant coach. You know, what's the responsibility of an assistant coach? You've got the set piece coach at Arsenal getting his car washed every 5 minutes on national TV because he's clearly doing his job and the players are responding to it. Arteta's walking behind him and going like that. Now we're going to pretend that the assistant coach doesn't actually do anything, and when we get rid of Ten Hag, that's when Van Nistelrooy will start doing something. He's already doing stuff and the players aren't responding to it. So, you know what? I'm just not buying into this. I'm sure Ruud van Nistelrooy will end up being the assistant coach and the new manager of Man United if Ten Hag goes, and I'm sure the players will bounce back. But the players won't bounce back because it's Ruud van Nistelrooy. The players will bounce back because they'll suddenly start working again. Ruud van Nistelrooy's been here for 3 months. If his presence and communication is so good, why haven't the players responded to it? Why are we so shit in front of goal? So I'm just not buying into this. And the media are doing it. The media want Van Nistelrooy because it's an ex-player and, you know, they get a hard-on for him. But the point is, I like Van Nistelrooy. I'm sure he'll get the job. He will get my support. But let's not pretend he's a brand new coach coming in. The players have been working in for 3 months and they haven't really done much, have they? So let's not pretend it's a brand new coach coming in. It's not even Ollie. Ollie came in from nowhere. Ruud's been here for 3 months. So let's not pretend that the it's incredible to me that there would even be stories about the players like Ruud and they want to work with Ruud. They've been working with him for 3 months. How stupid do they think we are? No, I'm not having that. I think regularly mentioning Ten Hag losing his job by Monday is quite disrespectful, says David. Some of you recent titles too have alluded to the same. It's what we would call out other media streams for, says David. Thanks for your name, David Bonglahor. God, that makes sense. No, sorry, David. We're not a media outlet. We're a fan community. Secondly, I don't want Ten Hag to get sacked. Thirdly, it's always been about opinion for 10 years, so I don't agree with it being disrespectful. There are a lot of people in this community that are Ten Hag out, and I genuinely think he'll be gone on Monday. It's not disrespectful, it's opinion, and also it's not a dictatorship. So I'm not going to sit here and not feed the Ten Hag outers who quite rightly, in their minds, want the manager to be sacked. I'm not going to sit there and go, no, Ten Hag's staying until something else. We're not that. And also, David, get yourself on TalkSport, get yourself on Sky, get yourself in the Manchester Evening News. They'll all be talking about the manager getting sacked. It's not disrespectful. Welcome to the real world. Somebody underperforms in their job, they're under pressure. What did Pep Guardiola say? You can talk about projects, you can talk about plans, they don't exist. The only thing that exists is results. And if they go wrong, you'll lose your job. Probably one of the best things Pep Guardiola said in a while, to be fair. They're not using rude tactics or formations, says Connor. Well, they clearly are, mate. I don't think you know anything about football, do you? Have you ever actually watched football in relation to what I've just said about Arsenal? Are they using Arsenal's set-piece coach tactics? Yes, they are. Do they use the goalkeeping coach's advice with the goalkeeper? Yes, they do. Does the assistant coach have a big say in how the team plays? Yes, they do. Did Sir Alex Ferguson coach tactically the team for Manchester United for 20 years? No, he didn't. He used Querez. He used Rennie Mullenstein. He used Steve McLaren. They were all assistant coaches. I don't know the involvement Ruud van Nistelrooy has, but he has an involvement in the way the team plays, whether it's 10% or 80%. That they're not just sat there putting a coat on, doing their hair and smiling for the Manchester Evening News saying, get me a job. Ruud van Nistelrooy is involved. Rennie Heck is involved. There was video footage of them yesterday coaching the players. I think you need to understand how a football club works, mate, because Ruud van Nistelrooy isn't there just looking at pictures of himself scoring goals, waiting for an opportunity. I think, Mark, last European game for Ten Hag with United, says Andy. Yeah, well, it's round one. It's round one, mate. And Eric Ten Hag was speaking yesterday. We got a good couple of questions into him. Can I just say as well, Beth's question last night was really good. She asked him about Benny McCarthy, saying that he's a good tactical coach, but why is that not working with the actual team at the moment? And Ten Hag sort of came out with excuses, if we're being honest, which you're going to expect at this time, because any answer that Ten Hag gives at the moment, even I would admit, is an excuse when the results aren't good. You can talk about, we've not had Rasmus, it's taken a bit of time, etc. But they're always excuses because you don't need to make those excuses if you're winning. So any manager that loses and is asked a question has to make an excuse for it. Of course, that's the way of the world. But somebody said, why didn't you ask Eric Ten Hag the question about why Benny McCarthy said certain players aren't working hard in training? And what you need to realise is you can ask that question, but you'll probably never get the opportunity to ask a question again, if we're honest, and why burn your bridges? But secondly, you've also got to appreciate that when you're in those press conferences, and we've listened to them all the time, don't waste a question. I think a lot of people think if they're in a press conference, I'd say to Ten Hag, why does he keep picking Rashford? Are Rashford and Bruno on contracts where they have to play? And you will never ask a question again, and you will not get the answer you want. In a press conference, we get a lot of crap questions, but you've got to ask a question that they're going to answer that is as close to being a tough question as you can. And if you ask him what he thinks about Benny McCarthy saying players not training hard and not playing hard, he is never going to answer that question honestly. He would just say something like, well, I'm not going to talk about that. The players are committed to the badge. They're working really hard, and that's all I'm interested in. And that's the answer you'll get. So you've got to pitch it in. Mark, last European game, we need to make actions that show the stature of this great club. Go and get Emery, says Jarbar Drinks. Mate, I think you're on the drinks because I think you're massively, massively disrespectful. I understand why people might want Unai Emery, but the reasons you want him is the reasons you won't get him. He's got an amazing setup at Aston Villa. He's got freedom at Aston Villa. He's got a club in the Champions League at Aston Villa. He's got a fantastic squad at Aston Villa. They're a rich club. Why would he come to Manchester United? He won't come, and we can't afford him. So, you know, get realistic. In fact, I want to bring what Nicky Butt said in here. I thought what Nicky Butt said was absolutely spot on. He said, there's no point sacking somebody if there's nobody to come in. Clubs all over the world do that, and I think it's crazy. They sack a manager because it's not going well, and they don't have any reasonable targets coming in. And they bring in another wrong one in, and it's a knock-on effect. For me, I'd give him time to get it right. It's the start of the season. We've only played a few games, and you've got to stand by him. If they don't do that, they should have let him go at the end of last season. You know what? I really like Nicky Butt. I don't think we should have ever let him go from the football club. I thought he was a brilliant go-between between the youth and the first team. And obviously Nicky Butt just got pissed off with the way the Glazers were running the club. But he's absolutely spot on there. And it's not about being Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out, because you've got every right to be Ten Hag out as much as you've got every right to be Ten Hag in. I think we've gone past that conversation. But what he's basically saying is, and I think even if you want Ten Hag sacked, you would understand and agree with this. What is the point in just sacking somebody and then not having a good replacement in place? It doesn't mean that Ten Hag shouldn't be sacked. What he's saying is there's no point in doing it until you've got the right replacement. Now, is Ruud van Nistelrooy as an interim really the right replacement? I look at Ruud and I will back him, but I see it as writing this season off before it's even got going. Like, it's almost like Rangnick and Ollie's tenure have gone to bed and shagged each other. Not Ollie and Rangnick, I mean their actual tenure, because Rangnick came in after Ollie and the season was written off at Christmas. And Ollie came in after Mourinho and had the bounce and got the job, and that was a mistake. So you've almost got Ruud coming in as an ex-player, as an interim. If he does well, we give him the job like we did Ollie. Or Ruud coming in as an interim and it goes even worse like it did with Rangnick. There's not really a win, is there? Nobody really wants Ruud to be the manager long term. And also, we don't want it to all go to shit. So you're basically writing the season off. And I think that's what Nicky Butt's saying, really. It's like, we've been down this road before. It could have a really bad knock-on effect. Worst case scenario, you write the season off. Best case scenario, you end up doing what you did with Ollie, and that costs you 3 years. So I think he's right in the sense that if their plan was to get rid of Ten Hag, they should have got rid of him in the summer and they'd have had £200 million for the new manager. If they're going to get rid of him after a few games, what big decision did you make in the summer? And this goes back to what we were talking about last night. I don't really care what they do as a fan anymore. Let's just get on with it. And I'm sure many of you do feel the same. But when Ten Hag gets sacked, if he gets sacked, it's not the end of the problems. We are, as fans, left with whatever is left. And I think there has to be huge scrutiny, like Nicky Butt is saying, on Ineos. Because hold on a minute. You decided to keep him. You've given him 200 million quid. We've now got an interim coach with his squad. We don't want this guy long term because we've done this before with Solskjaer and he's only had 1 year in the Eredivisie with PSV. This is a very, very dangerous solution. And I think that when you look at it, what plan have they got? I mean, look, if they sack Ten Hag on Monday and Nagelsmann's in on Tuesday, that's a little bit different. I think a lot of people would go, you can't argue with that. But what's the contingency plan is, I think, what Nicky Butt is saying, and it's very, very true. Look, in no way am I offering you a positive outcome. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is we live in a real world, and the solution, you know, it's like throwing your dinner on the floor and knowing there's nothing else in the cupboard. If you're going to throw your dinner on the floor, make sure there's something in the oven or the delivery man's come in with something from, you know, Deliveroo. That's what I'm saying. Throwing your food on the floor because you don't like it is fine, but what else is going to go on the table? And I feel like we might throw the food on the floor and not be left with much else. And that is what I think Nicky Butt is saying. And it's a very intelligent point at a time of high tension. And people don't necessarily want to listen to it because they quite rightly are very, very angry. But I think Nicky Butt's voice on this is probably one of the most intelligent ones I've seen this week. And I'm not criticising people for saying, nah, I'm not listening, because there's a lot of people on the telly not listening. There's a lot of people on the radio not listening. So why would you listen? Why would I listen? But I think he's correct. I think that the solution, to me, is not attractive. It's not attractive. Ruud van Nistelrooy as an interim coach is not attractive to me. I will back him because I like him, but it's not attractive. It doesn't, and the problem you've got, as I've said before, a lot of Ten Hag outers that I see on Twitter and you know, on social media, etc., aren't behind Ruud. They'd rather have Ruud than Ten Hag, but he's not the manager they want. So the minute he gets a bad result, it'll be, there's no you need patience of a new manager. If you dropped Emery in tomorrow, or you dropped Nagelsmann in tomorrow, people would give them 2 years. You drop Ruud in, I think he gets 2 losses and everyone's going, nah. Some of you are saying, I like him. He did well at PSV. I want him. Some of you will give him patience, but as we know in this fan base, some of you is not enough. You need the majority. And I see things getting, well, no, I'm not going to sit here and say I see things definitely getting worse. But what I will sit here and say is that I don't have any enthusiasm for that, if I'm being honest. And I don't think it'll be long before people are saying get rid of Ruud, if I'm being honest either. And it won't be long before certain players turn their back on him as well, if we're being honest. Been here since the start. Mum just passed this suddenly. Helps. Jurassic Park fan. Glory, glory, Man United is Bradley. Reach out, Mark. You alone have helped. Bradley, really, really sad news about your mum. Thoughts with you and your family, of course, and I hope you're doing well, and I'm glad that you can find some comfort in the community like so many do. That reminds me, actually, Bradley, thank you very much for your super chat. Got a message from a family member from Moe, who lives in South Africa. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday to Moe. The extremities of life there, and, you know, it's all a gift. So, you know, not commiserations. Sorry to hear that news for Bradley, and happy birthday to Moe as well. But that's what this community is, isn't it? And I suppose that's what football is as well, isn't it? The ups and downs, life. But the one thing that binds us is the ability to communicate, whether we agree or not. So lots of love to Bradley, and congratulations to Moe. Allegri to play handball in United, says Omar. I agree with not sacking him until we have a solid... Can I just say, I'm only reacting to the news on Nicky Butt. Like, all the comments will be full up with Goldbridge is on the payroll, Goldbridge is this, Goldbridge is that. I haven't said Ten Hag in. I've said I wouldn't sack him, and I've also said I think he's gone on Monday. So can we just get that sort of running along the bottom of the screen? Mark Goldbridge, since Monday, has not been screaming Ten Hag in. He wouldn't sack the manager like Nicky Butt, but accepts that he probably will get sacked on Monday. That is my stance. So there we go. NPC says, do Seg pay you? Mate, I'm quite happy to say absolutely not. And if people want to do videos or write articles about it, then let's go to court, because I will 100% win. Let's go. Let's do it. I mean, no, I don't mean like we can go to a criminal court if you want to get sued, but I'm not going to do that. Let's have a proper conversation live on a stream with whatever journalist or TV personality wants to accuse me of being paid by Seg, and I will end your career live, because you've got no evidence, because it's never happened. And I will say this for an hour, 10 minutes or 10 seconds, and you can clip it and you can keep it and you can think we've got him when it gets proven. You will not find 10 pence in any payment to me from anybody to do with Manchester United, Ten Hag, any player, because I ain't fucking stupid, and I would never do it. It's not the principles of what the United stand is. I'm strong opinionated. I'll always have my opinion, and I will back it until I think I'm wrong. But you're an absolute moron if you think that. If that's all you've got, you may as well call me a Forest fan as well. Yeah, you may as well make up every nonsense, stupid lie you've got to try and beat. Look, we're the best. We're the best. This community's the best. We're the biggest and the best. And when you are the biggest and the best, people come for you. That's what happens. But if you are going to come for us, show us the receipts, because you haven't got any. You just got jealousy and bitterness and banter and trolling, or whatever you want to call it, because they will never find it, because it doesn't exist. And I don't normally talk about it because it's boring. It's as boring as the Forest fan stuff that started from a very bitter rival channel that didn't like us. That's where that started. It's not because I'm from Nottingham. It started from a rival YouTuber. They literally started that rumour and people picked it up. And now these Seg stuff, I don't know where this has started from, but again, it's just goes into the ether. It's not true. But I wouldn't sack the manager, and I'm not being paid to say that. I wouldn't sack him for pretty much the same reasons Nicky Butt. Is he on Seg payroll as well? Check his bank account. Of course he's not. Anyway, I'm sorry, but we kept Ten Hag because there was no better option over the summer. So what has changed in the last 3 months? Same manager pool, season needed, says Ruben. I think, like Nicky Butt, you're spot on. So this ex-player is one we should be listening to, says United One. You see, this guy is... I'm going to put United One to a poll soon and say, do we remove him from the chat? Because every comment is inflammatory and it doesn't add anything. It's stupidity, mate. You're absolutely stupid. So this is an ex-player we should be listening to? No. No. It's a news show where an ex-player has said something I actually agree with. I think Nicky Butt's talking sense. But it could be Nicky Smith from Salford with a super chat or a live chat or in the comments or on Twitter. It doesn't matter. You know, not every ex-player talks shit. And not every ex-player talks sense. It's just a comment that we're talking about. And we go from one to another for United One, actually, because this is what Paul Scholes had to say. I'm not sure about timescales for Erik Ten Hag. I've certainly said before that I've never asked for a manager to be sacked. It's not a nice thing. But you do wonder how long this can keep going on. I think the big thing from me and other people who've been at the club, and fans more importantly, is they want to see a bit of direction. A style of play that they can get behind. And I don't think at this point we're anywhere close to seeing a direction. I've also said before that when Liverpool won the league, when Man City won the league, you could feel something happening for them, like 3 or 4 years before that. It just doesn't feel like we're getting anywhere near. It feels like we're getting further away rather than closer to where the club should be. Well, there's an ex-player that some of you might actually agree with then, because it's a different opinion to Nicky Butt. I think Ten Hag is basically saying sack him. Sorry, I think Scholes is basically saying sack him, which is different to Nicky Butt. The only issue I would have with that is that there's two areas in there that I just find mythical. Why are we comparing ourselves to Man City? You know, to actually say when Man City were building something, you could feel like it was happening. Well, of course you could feel like something was happening. I mean, you know, literally... Pep Guardiola would be bought a right back. I don't like that one. I want that one, and they'd do it. You can't talk about Man City. And what about Arsenal? And what about Liverpool? And also Scholesy or Scholes or Paul or whatever you want to be called. You can't compare Liverpool and Man City and Arsenal anyway, because it's about the structure. You know what? I think my big problem is that we change the rules every game to fit whatever agenda somebody has. I could read that Paul Scholes thing in a different mood where I haven't got a lot of time to think about it and go, he's talking sense. But unfortunately, we have got time to think about it, and scrutinising it, it doesn't make any sense at all. We're using Liverpool and Man City. Hold on a minute. Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta were given total and utter support over a long period of time to remove the players they wanted and wanted to get rid of and bring the players in that they wanted as well. Well, we haven't had that at Man United, and if we have had it, we've only had it for about 3 months. And actually, we haven't got rid of everybody yet, have we? Because still Maguire's here, still Lindelof's here, still Casemiro's here. So we're still in a process of building what Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal have had for years anyway. So I'm not really interested in looking in the wing mirror. We're Manchester United and we haven't had the same structure either. Also, progress, style of play is such a bloody myth. We've won 2 cups in the last 2 years. I don't see Arsenal doing that. I don't see that happening very often. So this whole we're not making progress, are we now does silverware not matter then? Does that not matter? Come on, let's be honest. Are we not bothered about cups anymore then? Or are we actually proud of the fact that we won the FA Cup in May? With regards to style of play, I agree. Style of play's not been very good. Last season was horrific. Some of the worst football I've seen. Last Sunday was horrific. Some of the worst football I've seen. But stylistically, this season, we are different to last season. I don't think this comes down to style of play. I don't think this comes down to what Liverpool or Man City have done. I think this comes down to results. I think it comes down to results. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate football. This is down, Pep Guardiola's right. Style of play, vision, transition, projects, they don't mean anything. The only thing that matters is results. And if you don't get them, you'll lose your job. It's written in the stars. It's written in the annals of football. And we overanalyze it. We start talking about vision. And we start talking about other clubs. And we start talking about style of play. And the bottom line is, it's results. Because this season is different to last season. You can dig into the depth of it. The Spurs game distorted a lot of it, to be fair, but we're still pretty good for a lot of things. Missed chances, whatever, possession, whatever. It's different. But the results against Brighton and Liverpool and Spurs are why Ten Hag's job's in danger. If we'd have drawn those 3 games, no one would be talking about style of play. No one would be talking about, projects. They'd be going, could be doing a little bit better, but they've not lost a game. 3 draws is 3 points more. We wouldn't be in any... But the mantra and the conversation would be completely different. I think sometimes people need to remove their head from their arse, myself included, and I didn't think I'd be shouting Pep Guardiola out this morning, but he's absolutely right. We dig too deep about... what are the styles of play? We know... actually sit down with somebody and talk about style of play. It's so ridiculously subjective. One person will say, I can see what we're trying to do, but the players can't do it. Somebody else will be saying, we're actually doing well, but it's individual mistakes. Some people would say, well, actually, he's an idiot what he's trying to do. It's never going to work. It's so subjective. But what's not subjective is the final result. And that is the most important thing. And that's why tonight and on Sunday, it really doesn't matter what the hilarious thing is about people who talk about style of play or trophies or projects. The people who matter have got no interest in them. The FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, the way we play, the project we have on Monday will mean nothing. The only thing that seems to matter at the moment is what the result is against Porto and Aston Villa. So if you want to justify the reason that Ten Hag's getting sacked is because of the style of play, you're having a laugh. If I want to justify the reason they should keep him is because of trophies, I'm having a laugh. The only reason he's going to get the sack, or the only reason he's going to stay, is because of these 2 games in front of us, because that's what the media has built. And that's what us fans have latched onto. And therefore, the pressure is on these 2 results, which I find ridiculous. And which is why I thought what Nicky Butt said was quite interesting, where he said, what's changed after the FA Cup final? In 3 months, you've had 3 bad results. The manager market's the same. The manager market's probably worse. But you've had 3 bad results. You've allowed this noise to impact you. And you've basically leaked to the press that the results against Porto and Villa will decide his future on Monday. Which is exactly what happened in May. The FA Cup final will decide his future. I think Ineos need to grow a pair and just make a fucking decision that is the better decision for them and whatever their vision is. And stop being driven by exterior noise. Because deciding a manager's future on an FA Cup final or Porto and Villa, to me, is just incredible. And I'm sure we're all in agreement there. Because I keep seeing people talk about trophies that I've won. It works both sides. Injuries last year, trophies I've won, young players, injuries. And then on the other side, style of play, vision. None of those things are being taken into account. It literally is going to come down to the result tonight on Sunday. And that's the... we want to make out that football is so layered. It's so layered. It's so complex. Oh, you wouldn't understand what's going on in the boardroom at Man United because it's just so layered. They'll be looking at so many things. They won't. They'll be sat in the boardroom going, if he loses to Villa, we sack him. If he beats Villa, we'll keep him. And that to me is just madness. Absolute madness. And I don't agree with give him time. We're back in 1989. I don't agree with that at all. But because Sir Alex Ferguson would be sacked today. So when people say, well, we gave Sir Alex time, we did. But nobody gets that time anymore. Whether it's Bolton, Crystal Palace or Man United. But I think the one thing we probably could learn from 89 and not sacking Sir Alex is that you can't give somebody 4 years. It's never going to happen. But what you can do is have the balls to stick with your vision a little bit longer than 7 games if that's the decision that you made with sound mind. Now, if they've set him up to fail in the sense that the first opportunity they got, they were going to sack him anyway, then get on with it. It works both ways. Some people think that Ineos never really wanted to keep him, brought Ruud van Nistelrooy in so that the first sign of trouble, they could get rid of Ten Hag and give Ruud the job. Maybe that's the case, but just get on with it one way or another. New board, new coaches, new recruit team, new players. It's still changing. How is it ever going to start well? It needs time to bed in, says Sean. Erik Ten Hag literally is getting rid of the deadwood, progressing the youth and building a strong team. Don't care if he finished 12th if he's getting it done. Erik Ten Hag in, says Pizza. Sean from Ireland's a new member. Well, I think we're starting to see a bit of movement back towards keeping Ten Hag, but I wouldn't be too worried about that if I was a Ten Hag outer, because tonight is round 1. Lose tonight, and the results are going to change. All I'm saying to you is, we can argue, we can disagree, we can agree, we can find different arguments to talk about, we can talk about style of play, we can talk about trophies, but the bottom line is, Pep's right, it's about results. And whether you like it or not, it's about results. That's what's going to happen. The results will drive this. Simple as that. It's not worth falling out over, because the results are going to drive it. Now, I don't agree with that one way or another. I want to be fair and even here. I don't agree that if we win tonight and on Sunday, or we win tonight and draw on Sunday and he stays on Monday, I don't agree that these 2 games should dictate it. The same way that if we lose both games, I don't agree that both games should dictate it. But that's the way it's going to be. Member for a while now, don't you think we need a Roy Keane approach in the dressing room? Not manager-wise, but a wake-up for the players. Education to know what playing for the club means. Luke, I don't think we need a Roy Keane. I want to talk about this Harry Maguire thing just for a bit of lightheartedness, but I don't think we need a Roy Keane. Would you back yourself, Luke, to walk into that Man United dressing room and tell him what you think? Would you, NPC? Would you, Alex? Would you, Brandon? Would you back... doesn't matter if you wouldn't, and there'll be a lot of people pretending they would. Some people are capable of doing it and some people aren't. It doesn't make you a weak person. It doesn't make you a bad person. I've met people in life who, are fantastically intelligent and brilliant at what they do, but they're not that good at speaking in front of a crowd, and they put their hands up and they're not that great to it. If you revved me up, I'd have to be in the right frame of mind, but I'd love to walk into that dressing room with a couple of doormen, a couple of bouncers, and let rip. Because what would happen is it would end up with people getting physical. And that's what you want with Roy Keane, isn't it? Or Luke or whoever else. You want to walk in that dressing room and you want to tear him a fucking new one. That's what you want to do. And that's absolutely fine. But you don't need to give Roy Keane a job to do that. Luke could do that for free. I get it. But it's not logical to the progression of Man United to bring Roy Keane in just to go and give him a bloody good telling off. Because, John Smith could do that. They need that. They need someone to go in there and do that. I was thinking about this today, actually. I think one of the big fundamental problems with Man United, and I'd love somebody to give me an alternative to this, because I was in the shower this morning thinking about it. Nothing else was going on. I was washing my hair. And I was thinking, you know what? What's one of the fundamental core things of Manchester United over its history is this nucleus of, British players. We've always had the foreign players like the Ronaldos and the Cantonars, etc. But we've always had that strong nucleus of British players that sort of understand the British League, Manchester, fish and chips, pint of bitter, British. We're British. We know what this league's all about. We've always had that. Over the last 10 years, what British player has embodied what Man United is? I can't think of one. I mean, I'm not saying there's many foreign players, but I think this is something that Ineos need to look at as well, because, you look at Nicky Butt. A lot of people don't respect Nicky Butt, but I do. I think he was a massive player for us. Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Gary Neville, David Beckham, Wayne Rooney. It's not just the class of 92. Brian Robson before that. Rio Ferdinand. British players that get what Man United's all about. And over the last 10 years, we've really failed at that. I don't think they embody what Man United is. Someone like Nicky Butt or Gary Neville or Paul Scholes or Wayne Rooney, who wasn't even from Manchester, came from Everton, but completely got what it was all about in that British way. And I think this is one of the wider problems that we have in football, because I think when I look at the media and their British bias, I actually sort of understand it, you know. As much as I call it out, and as much as I see an ex-player sat on Sky or TNT doing it, I understand why they're doing it. I completely understand why they do it. They do it because they know how important it is, so they favour the Britishness of a Man United player because they know that that's so important, like Gerrard at Liverpool or John Terry at Chelsea, that, you know, British player. You know, even Saka at Arsenal, you know, he might not be like Roy Keane, but he still gets Arsenal. He knows what Arsenal is. And I think there's this stereotypical, you've got to be British to understand what it is to play for Arsenal or Liverpool or Manchester United. And we certainly did have that with the likes of Rooney and Darren Fletcher and John O'Shea and Wes Brown. And, you know, there's so many people that talent-wise, very, very different, but they get the core of what Man United's all about. I look at that Man United side now, and a lot of the time, over the years, we've seen the likes of Pogba and Martial and Bruno sort of criticised a lot by the media, and British players have been protected. But the veil of protection they get is a myth, because they don't actually get what it is to be a Man United player either. And I'm not saying that Bruno and Pogba didn't either, but what I'm saying is this, you know, they tend to go after the foreign players more because they're not British. They don't get it. But give me a Man United player over the last 10 years that's British that really gets it. I'd probably say Scott McTominay, you know. And we were right to sell him, but I think he did get what Man United was all about. And I think that's why he had a bit of a cult following, in the sense that some people wouldn't have got rid of him simply because he got it. But he wasn't good enough. That's the thing. Gary Neville was, Paul Scholes was, Nicky Butt was, Rooney was, John O'Shea was. John O'Shea's Irish, by the way. He's not British, I know that. But I always think of, you know, Great Britain and Ireland. You know, Ireland's its own. I lived there for 3 years. It's its own place. Roy Keane, John O'Shea. But it's very close to, you know, and they spend a lot of their life playing in Manchester. But my real point is, over the last 10 years, what players have got it? And specifically, probably more over the last 7 years, because Rooney would have had it towards the end of his career. Johnny Evans, but he was gone for a long time. But yeah, it's not enough, is it? We need more. And I look at, we've spent good money on British players as well. It's not only British players that have come through. So look, I think that when I look at United, there is a big identity crisis at that football club that we just, I think it's one of my biggest confusions is, why is it that we still keep producing these performances where I don't know what we're going to get? I mean, for some of the younger viewers, when I look at Man United tonight, if I had Roy Keane playing or David Beckham playing or Nicky Butt playing, I know what I'm going to get. We might lose the game, but I know they're going to play. I know what they're going to deliver. You might get beaten because they're better than you, but you're not going to get beaten because you didn't turn up. And that's one of the biggest sadnesses I have about Man United over the last few years, is that I've seen United get beaten plenty of times. But what I've seen in recent years is this total and utter mistrust and confusion and sadness that when the whistle blows, I don't know whether they're even going to turn up. For years, I knew they'd turn up. I just didn't know whether they were going to win. But the players were so good, if they turned up, you probably were going to win. But sometimes a team would be better than you, whether it be Arsene Wenger or Real Madrid, or just an off day where, you know, you catch a Southampton on a worldie or something like that, or a decision goes against you. But not turning up is the biggest problem we have, and that's universal. That's foreign players, British players, the lot. But I think this obsession that the media have with, you know, British-based players is based on a myth that doesn't exist anymore. Member for a while now. Don't think you. I've done that one from Luke. Would we been better off with the Qataris, says Hasham? Not if they don't solve the problems that we've got that we're talking about today. If we sack Ten Hag, then the manager merry-go-round continues. After 5 managers, you've got to look other places for issues. 5 difference can be a problem, says Gareth. MMA Takedown says, United 1 likes nothing about this club. How sad. No, United won. You listen to all of them, then you use your brain to filter what you agree with and don't agree with, says Ruben. Yeah, welcome to life, Ruben, exactly. Do you want to have Seg on the beach? Remember that song, says Rory. You know what? That was a horrible cocktail, but I used to drink a lot of that. We've made a worse start to this season compared to last. Can you imagine that? Says Henry Cool. Ray's gifted 5 memberships. You're an absolute legend, Ray. It's gonna. I tell you what, it's going to be emotional tonight. Anyway, as one thing we can't deny is that there might be people in this fan base who want us to lose. They might be at that point where they want us to lose to get rid of him. There'll be people who want us to win, hopefully, but it's going to be emotional. The main reason we would be sacking Ten Hag is we feel we don't have time. Stopgaps solve nothing. It wastes time. Time we feel we don't have. I like that, Patrick. I like that. I like that. Again, I think it's something I haven't thought about, which is actually, quite intelligent. Why are we? Why do we sack any manager? Why did we sack Jose? Because we felt that we were running out of time. Why did we sack Ollie? Because we felt we were running out of time. If you look at the sackings of Mourinho and Ollie, like I did, I wanted both of them to go. But if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're just compounding your mistakes. Mourinho for Ollie had to happen because the players had down tools. And in fairness, Ollie came in and won for 3 months. Ollie for Ranić, Ollie had to go, but things got worse. But there was this feeling that Ollie was out of time. But it got worse. And it damaged us for the rest of the season. And I think the mistake with Ollie wasn't sacking Ollie. It was what we were talking about a few minutes ago, is that they didn't have a contingency plan. Brighton know their next manager now. Brighton are brilliant at this. They know their next manager now. They know who it is. They know who they're going to go for. But Brighton's not Man United. But it's having that contingency plan in place, and if it's a good enough contingency plan. You can all yell all you want. I still got a contract, says Jeff Evans. I have heard from many fools that sports builds character. Not true. It reveals it. Man United need to find the right characters, says Tig. Thank you very much for that, Tig. And sorry, Mark, just listen to how Pep and Arteta motivate players at half-time when they're down, and I just can't visualise Ten Hag doing it, says Sanil. But again, Sanil, I don't agree with this. You're looking in the wing mirror at something else, at a completely different club. There will be managers out there that don't scream and shout that have been very, very successful. You're just looking at a different situation and going, that we should copy that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying just because Arteta and Pep do that doesn't mean that that's the only way to be a coach. I didn't compare us to Brighton, Abdul. I actually said we're not Brighton. What I'm saying is Brighton know their next manager because they have contingency plans. But who Brighton's next manager is going to be won't be able to be a Man United manager because he might be managing bloody Aberdeen. But you can still have a contingency plan. At this point, name the players publicly, says Keel. I don't know what stream you're watching. I think Van Persie is the last person that played with a passion for United, and that's really telling, says HC. I think too many people watch Ted Lasso, says Slow Sports News. That's still a series I've never watched. And Rory C says, speaking of the left-back situation, what about the young left-back at Benfica? He looks good. Yeah, you know what, Rory? Can we just applaud Rory, by the way? I and a few of you, at the start of last season, so not this season, last season, I was asked the question of who I thought would be the breakout young player. And obviously we were all saying Mainu because we knew it was going to happen. But I said keep an eye on Alvaro Fernandez. I just think from what I've heard that there is a player there. And I think his height and, durability to get up and down with Luke Shaw and his, injury record, I think Alvaro is a player that might be worth looking at. We loaned him out instantly, pretty much the next week, and then we sold him in January. Now, just because he's doing well for Benfica doesn't mean that selling him was a mistake. Sometimes we've seen it before. Players go to different clubs or different leagues, and it just helps them go to the next level because Man United can be a very much pressure pot, can't it? But it does it just, even if we shouldn't have got rid of Alvaro Fernandez, or we should have got rid of him, it just brings back that point, which I think Rory's making, is there is a left back that we had that is playing football in the Champions League well, and we don't have a left back. I'm not saying we should have kept Alvaro Fernandez, but what I'm saying is, if we'd kept him, at least we'd have a bloody left back. We haven't even got one. I'll tell you this Maguire story, just for a little bit of lightheartedness, right? Okay, so Ben Jacobs yesterday was doing an interview. I saw it on MUFC MPB's Twitter, so I think it was with them actually, but I have the tweet here. Also got another bit from Laurie Whitwell to give you as well. Just on the left back, Laurie Whitwell says Harry Amas is not regarded as ready for the physicality of first team football. There you go, which I think is obvious. I don't necessarily agree with it. You've got to trust it, but the fact that he's not been included in any match day squads or benches shows you everything there. Just listen to this. So this is from Ben Jacobs. We've had Ben Jacobs on the show, who's very good around the sale of Manchester United. This is not parody, so just listen to this. Ever since losing the Manchester United captaincy, Harry Maguire has still been acting like a captain, trying to keep everybody unified. Yeah. I'm sort of like, if I was Harry Maguire and I read that, I'd be like, thanks, Ben. Big thumbs up. Really, really grateful that you've put that out, because we were shit last season and we've started off badly this season. So it's not like I can claim anything anyway, even if he's walking around with his captain's armband. You know, I just imagine him walking around. You know those little fire warden things you can get that you put on your arm? You know, he hasn't even got the captain's one. He's got one of them fire warden things on, and he's wrote a C on it. And he's walking around acting like the captain, trying to keep everyone unified. But we're not. So if we were like top of the league and playing really, really good football, it would sort of be quite an interesting story, because you go, well, we're still doing really well. Everyone's together, and maybe Maguire's got a reason, part of that. But him walking around with his swimming band on, and we're not doing well as a pretend captain, it just made me laugh. At a time where I feel very stressed, it just made me laugh. And I instantly thought about, you know, the film The Batman. I was talking about it last night, actually, on That's Football. You know the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy. You know the second one with the Joker in it? And at the start of it, you get these people who are sort of pretending to be Batman. And they've all, instead of like his proper kit and he can beat everybody up, they're walking around in like tights and hockey masks and stuff like that. Pretend Batmans, getting the shit beat out of them. I just saw it and I thought, you just wouldn't want that out there, would you? You would not want that out there. You just wouldn't want it out there. It just doesn't do him any favours at all, does it? But look, I think on a serious note, I'd be stunned if he starts tonight. Some people have said we should start Maguire tonight, forgetting how shit he was against Brighton. I wouldn't have him anywhere near a game like this, where we're going to be up against tricky players. I think Benfica beating Atletico Madrid last night just shows you that the Portuguese league is no slouch at all. Yeah, it's going to be tough tonight, isn't it? It's going to be tough. I just hope that we, you know, I sort of thought about doing a bit of a rallying cry, going, come on, United. And then I thought, well, I did this on Saturday night. Did it on Sunday morning as well. Like, there's just no point. There's no point saying, come on, United, let's do it, this, that, and the other, because that's the saddest thing of all. We can get up for it. We can be like, come on, we're United. But as we saw on Sunday, and as we've seen countless times, we will know tonight whether they're turning up or not. And we will know on Sunday whether they're turning up or not. And we'll know in a month's time whether they're turning up or not. There's no point in getting excited. Well, I am excited, but there's no point in getting enthusiastic about it, because you just don't know what United team's going to turn up. I hope it's going to turn up. I suspect, just on early team news, there's been some people sort of leaking some stuff out. I don't think that we will see massive change. But I think that I certainly think we'll see Rashford and Bruno start. I don't think he'll change the back five. I don't know what he'll do in the midfield. I wouldn't be surprised if he drops Agate and plays Mainu and Eriksen. But I would expect Rasmus to start as well, if I'm being honest. Sambo says, I'm still Ten Hag in. We are climbing a mountain. He might not be the right profile for the end sprint, but he is right for the current rocky terrain, says Sambo. The guy before the guy, maybe. And United One's back. He says, you've made me popular with the inners. My real issue is we see no real changes. The players don't pick themselves, can't back someone without cojones. Probably the most sense you've made, actually. That was actually quite a good point. Keyword is trying, Mark. Doesn't mean he's succeeding, says Mayad. And Kieran Reeve, welcome to the Members Club. And also, Nagy says, I want to see what happens in year 4-5 with Ten Hag. The players are too used to the 3-year cycle. Also, Rude is already there. He should be able to have an impact already. Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with you on that one. I think that, you know, going back to just a couple of bits I wanted to bring into the show as well. Just going back to what Laurie Whitwell was saying is that the players are quite enthusiastic about Ruud van Nistelrooy if he gets the job. He's been there. You know, he's already been there. But something else from Laurie Whitwell that came in was that the Manchester United hierarchy maintained patience in a process they anticipated would have some dips and see the work being done in training by Ten Hag and his coaching team. However, another bad performance in Portugal risks testing their resolve. And you know what? I'm going to call this out. I don't care whether people agree with me or not. I'm going to call this out. That is just completely and utterly bad from United to put out there, because they will have told Laurie Whitwell that, because he won't make it up. But this is exactly what we were talking about half an hour ago. The hierarchy maintained patience in a process where they expected dips to happen and they're happy with the work being done on the training ground and the vision. But a loss tonight will test their resolve. It's contradiction, mate. It's complete and utter contradiction. So they've got patience, they can see the vision, and they knew that there would be bad results, but they like the project. However, if we lose tonight, they might sack him. It's completely and utterly contradictory. And it goes back to what Pep said. Ultimately, we can talk about visions, we can talk about projects, we can talk about style of play, we can talk about trophies, but the one thing that will define everything is results. And I think we just need to stop pretending about he picks this player, he wins these trophies, he's got this vision, he's got this style of play. It comes down to results. Bottom line, unless the club grow a pair and say, no, it doesn't come down to results, we are sticking with this, which is a brave thing to do, I admit. Ultimately, it comes down to results. It comes down to tonight and Sunday. That sounds ridiculous to me, but that's what it is. I'm flying to watch the match and I hope we win, says Pranab. Thank you very much. Okay, big day ahead then. 8 o'clock kickoff, so we'll be live from sort of half 6 with the countdown to kick off. I will obviously be with you from 7:30, and then we kick off at 8. Massive night tonight. Patrick Lynch says, haven't we had this question of Ten Hag's third year since pre-season? He's needed to win every game since Fulham. Feels like it's impossible to see him finishing the season, says Patrick. Yeah, and I think that was caused by a lot of the stuff that happened in the summer. I actually agree with you on that one. Make sure you take care, everyone. Stay safe. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We're on that road to 2 million. And yeah, I am excited, but I don't know what we're going to get. Speak to you in a bit.